20-minute phone calls, and I'll never forget, because for the first 19 minutes and 36 seconds, my girlfriend and I was on the phone, and we sat there and cried. And then the first time I got to visit, you get 30-minute visits, and there's this 3-inch glass in between you, and she sat there, and for 26 minutes we just cried. Because we couldn't fathom our worst possible fear of really happening. But jail was one of the best times and one of the worst times, because while I sat in jail, I had a lot of soul searching to do, right? I had to figure out who exactly did I want to be. Because I had plenty of homies that go to jail and they get out, and then they go back to jail and they get out, and they go back to jail. And I have a daughter, and I know plenty of people that have kids and don't raise them, and have another kid and don't raise them. And I had a conscious decision that said, I'm not going to be another statistic. Right? That's why I say change the narrative, because I had to change some stuff in my mind. Because I realized, like, oh, I like making money and I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm just selling the wrong product. So I ended up doing 14 months in jail, and people say, oh, that's not long, because I promise you, I got homies 5, 10, 15 years. I was just talking about one homie, he's in the feds, and got a 144-month sentence last week. Because like the feds go by months. So 14 months ain't that long, but to put it in perspective, think about how much stuff happens in a year. Right? Like my birthday, my daughter's birthday, my wife's birthday, my parents, my siblings. Like me and my 2 other brothers was in jail on Father's Day. My dad had to come visit us for his Father's Day, had to spend his day in jail visiting his 3 sons. Right? Like, there's certain things that come, like birthdays, they come every year, but there's certain things that don't. Like, my grandparents had their 50th wedding anniversary, and the pictures was great, but I wasn't in them. Like, my wife graduated from college, and the pictures was great, but I wasn't there to support her. So I started realizing very quickly what's important and what's not important. And as we talk about brand, that's what your brand is, right? Like, what do you really value? Like, what's really important to you? Because throughout life, you'll start to come across stuff that I promise you, it might seem important, but it's really not. Like, if it's not beneficial to your growth, it's really not that important. Right, so I got out of jail, and I relaunched my lawn care business, because that's something I didn't tell you guys. I started the lawn care business when I was 14 years old, and when I went to college, it kind of struggled, because obviously I can't cut grass and be in college, right? So I relaunched my lawn care business, but my goal was always to be a millionaire. So to date, my lawn care business does about $108,000 a year, but again, if my goal is to be a millionaire, so like we got to do a little bit more, right? Like 100,000 not enough. And I'm really big on dates, because I got out of jail on April 30th. And 2 years after I got out of jail, April 30th, 2018, I got out of jail. And February 26th of 2020, my brother got shot and killed. And that was one of the hardest times of my life, because I couldn't understand why, when I was out there shooting guns, when I was out there selling drugs, when I wasn't doing positive things, nothing happened to anybody that I loved. But the second I tried to change my life, the second I wasn't doing what I was doing, all of a sudden people started dying. Right? Like, I got booked February 14th, and 2 months later in April, one of my best friends got shot and killed. I get out of jail and try to change my life, and all of a sudden my brother gets shot and killed. And then about a month ago, one of my best friends got shot and killed. So I started realizing very quickly that this thing called life isn't promised, and we take these days for granted, but the truth of the matter is everybody has a date, right? And the sooner that we can make sure that we live our life to the fullest, the less that these dates will start to affect us. So I started doing what you guys see me doing now, which is coming to schools and speaking to kids, because I necessarily don't want you guys to go through what I had to go through. Right? Because by raising hands, how many of you guys know somebody that was shot and killed? By the other hand, how many of you guys know somebody that's in jail? So like, these numbers continue to perpetuate, which means they continue to increase, and at some point, the numbers start to become us, right? Because the statistics say 50% of the crime that's committed in Europe is between the ages of 14 to 21. That's you guys' age, right? So nobody ever wants to go to jail, nobody wants to die, but the things that we do aren't conducive to the successful life that we say that we want. So when I start talking to you guys about brand, and when I start talking to you guys about reputation, the idea is to be able to tell the difference, and you can stay true to what's really important.